In 1965, a 16-year-old girl, along with her sister, walked into a house in Indianapolis. She believed she was going to stay with a family friend, but she never walked out again. Over the next several weeks, dozens of people would participate in something so cruel that it would shock the entire nation. This is the tragic story of Sylvia Likens. Sylvia Likens was born in 1949. She grew up in a struggling but loving family. Her parents, Lester Likens and Elizabeth Likens, worked as carnival workers, traveling across the country with various fairs and amusement shows. Because of their lifestyle, stability was difficult. Sylvia and her younger sister Jenny Likens often stayed with relatives or family friends while their parents worked. Sylvia was known as a quiet and gentle girl. She loved music, she liked school, and she was protective of her younger sister Jenny, who suffered from polio and walked with a brace. In October 1965, their parents had to leave Indianapolis for work. They needed someone to temporarily care for the girls. That's when they met Gertrude Banaszewski. Gertrude Banaszewski appeared to be an ordinary mother. She was 37 years old, she had 7 children, and she lived in a small house in Indianapolis. But behind closed doors, her life was chaotic. Gertrude was extremely poor. She suffered from depression and chronic illness. She was raising her children alone. When Lester and Elizabeth Likens offered $20 per week for Sylvia and Jenny to stay with her, she agreed. On October 26, 1965, the girls moved into the house. At first, things seemed normal, but within days, everything began to change. When the first payment from Sylvia's parents arrived late, Gertrude became furious. She beat both girls with a paddle. Hard. But soon, the abuse focused entirely on Sylvia. Gertrude began accusing her of lying, being immoral, corrupting her daughters. None of it was true, but the accusations gave Gertrude an excuse. The punishments grew harsher. Sylvia was slapped, kicked, whipped with belts. Meanwhile, Jenny, because of her disability, was mostly spared. Sylvia became the primary target, but the worst was still to come. Gertrude did something chilling. She encouraged other children to abuse Sylvia. Her own kids participated. Neighborhood teenagers began visiting the house. Gertrude told them Sylvia was a bad girl who deserved punishment. Soon, the house turned into something horrifying. Children lined up to hit Sylvia. Some kicked her, some slapped her, others burned her with cigarettes. One of the most disturbing parts of the case is that many of the abusers were just children themselves. Names that later appeared in court included Paula Banaszewski, Stephanie Banaszewski, Richard Hobbs, Coy Hubbard. The abuse slowly transformed into group cruelty, and no one stopped it. On another occasion, as the family ate supper, Gertrude, Paula, and a neighborhood boy named Randy Gordon Lepper force-fed Likens a hot dog overloaded with condiments, including mustard and spices. Likens vomited as a result and was later forced to consume what she had regurgitated. As days passed, the torture became more brutal. Gertrude stopped allowing Sylvia to eat with the family. She forced her to sleep on the cold basement floor. Sylvia was starved, beaten, burned, humiliated. Sometimes Gertrude forced Sylvia to strip naked. Other times she forced the children to pour hot water or rub salt into wounds. The basement became Sylvia's prison. She grew weaker each day. Her body was covered in bruises and burns. But the worst act of cruelty was still coming. On one occasion, Gertrude discovered that Likens had urinated on herself. As a punishment, Likens was forced to insert an empty glass Coca-Cola bottle into her vagina in the presence of the Banaszewski children before Gertrude ordered her into the basement. Shortly thereafter, Gertrude shouted for Likens to return to the kitchen, then ordered her to strip naked before proclaiming to her, "You have branded my daughters. Now I am going to brand you." She began carving the words, "I'm a prostitute and proud of it," onto Likens's abdomen with a heated needle. When Gertrude was unable to finish the branding, she instructed one of the neighborhood children present, 14-year-old Richard Dean Hobbs, to finish etching the words into Likens's flesh as she took Jenny to a nearby grocery store. In what Hobbs would later insist were short, light etchings, he continued to brand the text into Likens's abdomen as she clenched her teeth and cried. Both Hobbs and 10-year-old Shirley Banisewski then led Likens into the basement, where each proceeded to use an anchor bolt in an attempt to burn the letter S beneath Likens's left breast. Sylvia was barely conscious during the ordeal. The room was filled with children watching, some laughing, some participating, but none stopping it. This moment would later become one of the most shocking pieces of evidence in the trial. By mid-October 1965, Sylvia's body was shutting down. She was malnourished, dehydrated, barely able to stand. She had been locked in the basement for days. Occasionally, the children would push her down the stairs. Sometimes they would kick her just to see if she would react. On October 26, 1965, Sylvia collapsed. Her body finally gave out. Later that afternoon, Sylvia Likens died. She was just 16 years old. Near the end of Sylvia's life, Gertrude tried to create a cover story. She forced Sylvia to write a note claiming a group of boys had kidnapped and abused her. But Sylvia was so weak she could barely hold the pen. Even after death, Gertrude initially beat Likens's corpse with a book, shouting, "Faker, faker," in order to rouse her. An ambulance was called, but paramedics quickly realized something was terribly wrong. Sylvia's body showed severe signs of abuse. Police were immediately alerted. During questioning, one person finally spoke, Jenny Likens. Through tears, she told investigators everything: the beatings, the burns, the basement, the torture. Police quickly arrested Gertrude Banisewski, several of her children, multiple neighborhood teenagers. The nation was horrified when the details became public. The trial began in 1966. Doctors revealed the horrifying truth. Sylvia's body had over 150 wounds. The jury heard testimony from children who had participated in the abuse, but prosecutors argued that the person responsible for creating the environment of torture was Gertrude Banisewski. The verdict: Gertrude Banisewski, guilty of first-degree murder. She was sentenced to life in prison. Several teenagers involved received prison sentences as well. Despite the brutality of the crime, Gertrude Banisewski was paroled in 1985. She had served just 20 years. Many people believed justice had not been served. Today, the murder of Sylvia Likens remains one of the most disturbing cases in American criminal history, not only because of the torture, but because so many people witnessed it and did nothing. Sylvia Likens died alone in a basement, but her story continues to remind the world of something deeply uncomfortable. Sometimes evil doesn't come from monsters. Sometimes it comes from ordinary people.